Welcome to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. I'm your host, Fabian motherfucking Ojeda, and I don't know shit, but that's okay. All right, let's get this shit started. Thank you everybody for listening to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. Hope you all enjoyed episode number 64 with Shauna Toft, the actress that puts in the work to get the work. Wish her a lot of luck and success in everything she's doing. We're back today with a brand new guest, and I'm very excited to have him on, Mr. Technical, the legendary Barry Horowitz. How you doing, Barry?
I'm doing excellent, Fabian. It's a great pleasure to be on your show. Heard a lot about it, and I'm excited.
For sure, man. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to give people, a little peek behind the curtain today into the pro wrestling business. You know, I'm really excited about this because I'm I guess what you guys in your world call a mark, not too bad. I'm a fan. I'm a casual fan, but
sure.
I've been watching since I was about 3 years old. And the reason I know is because my first conscious memory was watching, right before SummerSlam 90, because I can remember all the characters, I can remember Ultimate Warrior and Rick Rude and, Hogan and Earthquake. And, I looked up the years. I'm like, oh man, that's when I was like 3 years old, so it's something, and you were a big part of that as well, because you were on every, Saturday and Sunday. And to me that just kind of, it speaks volumes to the work you guys did, because if I was able to be captivated by that at such a young age, and, I still remember it, and a lot of people still remember it, it's quality entertainment, and you guys put in all the work, and I don't think it's as appreciated as a form of entertainment as other things.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. As far as young children and stuff, even if they watch me, I've never to this day been vulgar. I've been your ultimate bad guy where you just see me like in a PG movie. Vulgarity and all that stuff when there's kids out there and the bad verbiage, anybody could do that. It creates an artist to walk around that and do it properly. And that's as me as a heel, which we call in the wrestling business, I would do that. And as far as the marks go, you've got your smart marks, which are very intelligent. They're historians, and they respect you and they disrespect you if you try to lie to them. And then you got your idiot marks that just they just think, they read some stuff on the internet and they think they're in the locker room, and after their third beer they got beer muscles and they're world champions, which I don't respect it. They belong in the carnival days, which I'm not a fan of that. I don't respect that. And it's a shame because some of those leak into the business and they make us the better persons, the better people. And I don't mean that in a chauvinistic way or anything, but just the better quality pro, it makes us, it reflects on us, and it's not good. It's not healthy. Right. It's toxic.
Yeah, for sure. And that's something I definitely wanted to touch on, and we can go ahead and go there now. But I think, and you, being the professional, I'm sure you've seen the crowds change throughout the years. In the early 90s and late 80s, people were really into it. They suspended their disbelief in everything, and they were into the heel versus the face, the good guy versus the bad guy, classic story, right?
Sure.
But then it started to turn, and people started to get the internet, and they think they know the real people behind the curtain, and then they start trying to narrate the show themselves. To this day, I'm when the pandemic started, I was glad to see the fans out of the arena, to be honest with you, because you can finally start to enjoy, the storytelling again without the fans trying to rob the show. Like they would just, fans were getting to the point where it could have been a great story that we were watching, but they were just so vocal and loud and aggressive because they didn't like the certain person being pushed, right?
Right.
So that's where fans are now. Have you seen that change?
Somewhat, to some respect. I think they're more entertain. I mean, they're more in it, the different type of crowd, because they're smart, more in it for the entertainment and they know what's going on. But it's another thing. It's another reality thing. It's another football game. It's another baseball game, soccer game. It's just that we're labeled professional wrestling sports entertainment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
And now, I always use professional wrestling first, because if you drive by any famous building, you've got them in LA. I'm going to use Madison Square Garden. On the outside and the marquee, it says pro wrestling tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yep. True.
Oh, that's the bottom line.
You know, from what I remember growing up, and pro wrestling used to be really like a guarded thing where you don't know how to get into it. You know, maybe you're a big fan and
right.
You know, one day you're like, oh, I want to be a wrestler. You know, I think nowadays there's a lot more avenues to get in. I mean, some of them might not be as legitimate as others. You know, like you might just go find a guy that'll charge you a bunch of money. Hey, I'm a wrestling trainer. You know, somebody who did it maybe for a year or something. But back in your day, you know, it was really hard to break into the business, right?
Yes, it was extremely hard. And, you know, it was real secretive kayfabe, if you will. And if you're a wise guy or something, you know, some of these organizations will go out there to hurt you, maybe just, you know, make you do 1,000 Hindu squats and then do some stuff and throw up and stuff. Some would break your leg. It was not sanctioned. And now, of course, you can get sued. And then you got to be careful who trains you. In my eyes, I've said it on many interviews and podcasts, I was trained by the best. And the reason I say that is because what I see getting trained at these so-called centers and performance centers and whatnot, these training centers. And if these guys have been wrestling the coach 20 years or better, now when I mean 20 years, but did he wrestle, you know, how many matches did he have? See, this is what's more important. I could be, I'm a wrestler for 20 years, but I had 100 matches. Or I'm a wrestler for 30 years. I've had 5,000 matches.
Yeah.
See, there's a difference. And so you want a qualified coach. I mean, nobody broken down and looks like crap and still could go. But his main function really when you coach, and that's what I'm seeking now, and I do these seminars physically and mentally. You want to, it's more verbal. You're telling, you're showing. And it's more than just putting on your tights and getting in the ring and grabbing a headlock. It's inside the ring. It's outside as a professional. It's showing up on time. It's doing what they say, you know, don't fail drug tests. Don't be an idiot, make the business look bad and going off in a diner or something. And don't really think you're the world champion. I mean, you could think it that night. There's nothing wrong with getting into character. But when you're at home with your family and out and about, you're not. Okay.
Right.
You know, the only people that could that could claim that legitimately, I'm just going to throw off just a few names, is somebody like Brock Lesnar, Kurt Angle, Mike Tyson. Otherwise, you know, we're in a different type of land. And if you're worried about that land and your win-loss record, you just need to quit. Talk to Dana White. Get one match with UFC. You'll probably last about 15 seconds, and you'll beg for your job back.
Right. I'll CM Punk.
Right? Yeah. I don't know the whole situation with that. I heard a bunch of stuff, but I don't play into those games. As long as I'm enjoying myself and you're paying me big money, there's not too many other outlets out there. I mean, you can go to Japan and whatnot, and there's some other smaller sanctioned organizations, but I don't know about that. I mean, when you were, you know, some of these guys, when they're training, they were backyard wrestling, or they were myself. I started off in like little country bars or little redneck bars. And then I went on to civic centers, and then I paid my dues. Right. I never did it in the backyard. And I mean, I've wrestled at flea markets and whatnot, but you forget where you came from. And so when you're bitching and complaining, making all that money, you need to say, wow, what if they did get rid of me and I have to go back to that? Then you'd be wishing you were that odd gimmick, or you wish you were making $20,000 a match instead of 200 that night, or 100 or 50.
Right.
So you got to remember where you come from. And I never forget that, and it never bothers me. Not that I don't give a crap. I'm a professional, and there's a difference.
Mm-hmm. Now, by all means, you made it. You wrestled at the two, biggest organizations that ever existed in pro wrestling history. WWF and WCW at their peaks. And so you made it, and you listen to these stories, like some guys like Steve Austin and The Undertaker talking about how before they got there, they would have to sleep in their cars and eat potatoes all day, right? Was your you getting into the business, was anything like that? Or I mean, did you were you kind of more taken care of, or did you have a place to stay?
Well, I saved my money from odd jobs. I was always working a job that I'm not going to stay there forever, because my dream was pro wrestling. So I saved my money. And I mean, believe me, I lived in studio apartments, and I have slept in my car a few times, not permanently. My food, I regulated that. It was okay. Remember now, I was putting my money away. I don't drink and I don't do gimmicks and I don't do anything like that. So that money that part-time job while I'm training back then would pay for a studio apartment or split something with somebody. And the food and gas was really not a problem back then. Mm-hmm. So I did all right, because I controlled and monitored and stayed budgeted.
Yeah, no, that's definitely, you keep touching on being professional. And to me, I'm thinking like, man, this is, like it resonates with, if it's, how do I put it? If you have like a real life gimmick, is that you're your pro wrestling's professional, right?
Do what now?
It's like your pro wrestling's professional.
Yes, right.
And that's actually what I'm titling the episode. Barry Horowitz, pro wrestling's professional.
I like that.
Because I did listen to you on another podcast. I'm like, man, this guy's like, he gets it. He understands that it's a business, and so you're not out there wasting your time and trying to live the rock star lifestyle when it's your job.
Right, exactly. The rock star lifestyle. Some guys it paid off. Most of them, they're broke, in prison, dead by accident or self-inflicted. And then some just tapered it off and realized, you need to do a 360 if you want to be alive and make, money. I compare it to, I'll never understand these guys that in the NFL, they went through Pee Wee. They did everything. I mean, they did a plethora of things to get there. Then they go to the draft. Then you get a signing bonus. And right away, you're buying a Bugatti car, a $50 million house, and you're out at 4 a.m. with a gun on your side at a strip bar in the off season. Mm-hmm. And then you wonder why you got replaced and this, and that. I mean, I'm just using a few names, but I don't see Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, Joe Montana, Warren Moon, Doug Flutie. I mean, the list goes on and on. They didn't do that. And maybe if they did, it was minute things. And then you got these guys, well, I don't want to go back to the hotel and watch HBO and get room service. I want to party. I'm allowed to. Well, you are, but this is the price of fame. And if it means stay in your room and you do that a few years and then you're retired, you could do whatever you want. Don't be selfish and dumb yourself out of a job. Mm-hmm. That's what you're doing.
Right. For sure.
I'll never understand that. Never, ever, ever.
And it is such a shame, because a lot of the people that I grew up watching, on TV Saturday, Sunday mornings, they're not around anymore. And that really sucks, because I remember just watching as a kid, one after another, they're just dying, and it's before their time, because they should have lived longer lives, they should have been at the conventions and everything.
Yep.
And back in WWE for like the Legends nights and stuff like that. So it's kind of a shame, so Um, what do you think really did the most damage there? I mean, was it the drug use, or what did it?
I don't. I mean, I could allegedly say things because I've never witnessed anything. Even if I did, I don't stooge on people. I'm not into that. Not that I'm not afraid. I'm afraid of these people. It's just another professional thing that you just don't do. But some of these guys, too much too soon. They can't handle price and fame. They got to follow others. They can't be a leader, whether it be pills, alcohol, or whatever their demon is. It's not cool. And if you think it's cool, where are you now? And then when it did happen, everything was cool. But then once again, where are you now? Are you broke? Are you dead? And then I'll get people that'll knock me. I think mostly they're jealous. They think they're better than me. Or who were you in the wrestling business? Well, who was I in the wrestling business is the power of the pencil, the booker, how he wants to do it. You could be an unbelievable guy. My hobby, Fabian, is country music, and I've lived in Nashville for 10 years. There's guys in the backwoods of Missouri that could probably out-sing, who knows, Vince Gill or Randy Travis or Garth Brooks. They just didn't get discovered. I've been on Indy cards in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I'm wondering why these guys were never anywhere. Again, some of them weren't in shape. They weren't dressed right. But then some of them were picture perfect. And maybe somebody doesn't like you. Maybe you're not doing these sexual favors. I don't know, and I don't really care. But it's a shame how that works. And then, I mean, myself, I'm pretty heat-free. I think Jim Cornette said this once on his podcast, I was too nice or too good or too professional. And, but even if I didn't want to do this, somebody else will step in and do my job. I mean, there's got to be somebody like me. There's got to be somebody like Hogan. There's got to be somebody like Taker. There has to be. Otherwise, it'd be boring as hell. There's got to be different wrestling matches, girls or chain matches or cage matches or hardcore matches or just regular wrestling match, tag match. You got to have. It's like going in a diner in the Northeast. It's like 12 pages of food. So you want that variety. I don't think, there's nothing wrong with that. Long as it's spiced up on each match, not repetitive, not the same old shit. You got to change it up.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I heard you say was that, there were times where you would be standing at Gorilla with Gorilla Monsoon, and he told you like, hey, Barry, we can't, we don't have time for your match. You being a professional said, thank you very much, sir. Whereas other people were making a scene, right?
Oh, I've seen guys bitch, kitch, garbage cans, all that shit, or they had to do the job and acting like a bunch of big babies. And again, these guys will tell me, well, you just don't give a shit. No. You're just a mark for yourself. Just be a pro and go with it. You're getting paid. Nobody's bending your arm. And don't bitch. You're on the road for months and stuff. You don't have to do this. Nobody's forcing you. But once you're out, you'd wish you'd be back there. It's rough. It's tough. Well, hey, get your rest. Take your supplements. Eat right. Train right. Get to bed and skip the bars. And you'll save a shitload of money.
And I think, that attitude you had is maybe why, you were probably – I mean, I would say, you and Brooklyn Brawler, in my opinion, were the best two, enhancement guys.
I have to correct you on that one. I'm sorry. Now that I'm older and I know the business, no, you could say me, that's fine, but I would use other names. I would definitely use somebody like a Reno Riggins or Tim Horner, the Armstrongs. I mean, Dwayne Gill, Barry Hardy. Somebody that's more a little bit sound wrestling. Nothing against, but I don't think that's the right one to compare with as far as enhancement.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
just calling it like it is. I don't want to let that one slip under the rug.
For sure. But, while we're, since we're talking about you, I definitely consider you, one of the best enhancement guys. And I think it has a lot to do with your attitude there, because these days you'll see on Twitter or on any social media where the WWE stars are complaining about, like, oh, my position on the show, or on the card or whatever, and it's like,
because they're baby,
right? It's like, what are you doing? Like, somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. That's the story,
Yeah, and it's always a political move how we got to do it, and I slipped on a banana peel or something. It's always something, and it doesn't matter. I've seen guys push to the max in the last 8 months on WWE. They don't have a job today. That was all for nothing. Right. So it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. What matters is if you get the match over properly, get everybody involved over. I don't mean get the match over with and go back to the locker room. Get the match over. Worry about what you need. Get to the building on time. Do what you're told, and you'll have a long career. I mean, try not to get hurt, which it does happen. And I'll never understand that. And I'll never understand some of these coaches or some of these people have never been a wrestler or never worked for Vince, and they're getting paid good. And I'm sitting at home and I look better than them, and I'm a better worker than them. And, it's another political move. Probably half of my shit that I'm trying to convey is not even getting to the main powers to be, because jealousy or I'm going to take your spot. Well, first of all, I don't want to take your spot. I want to be a team, which I use that word loosely in pro wrestling, team. I mean, I just want to be on a team and add some flavor to the stew, so to speak. And that's it. And if I take your spot, it wasn't intentional. I just outworked you. That's it. Again, these guys haven't been trained like I have been. I went 18 months with Malenko, Karl Gotch, and I take that back. Malenko's, Jody and Shelley. I mean, phenomenal wrestlers in their own right, amateur shooters. These are badasses. And so was Professor Boris Malenko. He's did well for himself. I mean, the school was we were on judo mats first in a mattress factory. We're talking 100 degrees in the summer, 40 degrees in the winter, and 3 days a week, 3 hours a night, maybe 4 hours, and a part-time job and lifting. That's all I did. I had no time for anything else, but I wanted that and accepted it and didn't bitch. And guess what? It got me somewhere. Right. My house was built properly. My whole foundation was built good. And then when I got on the road with Crockett Promotions and all these others, and I'm traveling with Youngblood and Steamboat and Rufus R. Jones, Jimmy Valiant, Flair, Bob Orton Jr., Jimmy Snuka, all of these guys, Don Morocco, and you're in the back seat and you're just listening and absorbing. It makes a difference. And I watched a lot of films too. I watched a lot of Georgia wrestling, Florida wrestling, world class. That helps by watching and studying. And when I was at the matches, we were instructed to stay to the end and watch every match, which I have got to respect. That's not done too often. I only know one promotion. That was Jim Crockett Promotions, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And, Valentine was there. Flair was there. Everybody was there. I mean, everybody passed through there, and Florida and Georgia pro wrestling. So,
it's interesting. You're mentioning like the territories and everything. The territories don't exist anymore. There's indies, and I don't know if it's anything, comparable to like the territory days. But I think that's a huge difference in the pro wrestling business now, is that you had guys that knew how to be top guys, how to be champions in other organizations. And when you saw them on the WWF television, they already knew what it took to look like a star, to act like a star. But now you get a lot of guys that are raw, that are fresh, that don't have that experience. They have indie experience, not the same, right?
No.
But when they get to TV, they have no idea what they're doing, right?
No. Yeah, I'm sure when I worked the indie scene, I made some mistakes, but I pretty much I did what I was told, and I don't think I did what some of these guys do today. And then I feel bad for these guys, because really when you go out there on the indie scene, these people, the first thing they think of is the WWE. That's the first and foremost. Then second would be maybe another Ring of Honor or something of that nature, All Elite or something. But it's almost like, we know you're not like those guys. We're just getting entertained in our town. And especially if you dress like your hero or do moves like him, all you are is a wannabe. It's not, it doesn't look good. It's not healthy. I understand you have to go that route, but yeah, it may be even tougher now these days. Who knows?
Yeah,
I don't have to worry about that.
So another thing I want to bring up too is the aesthetics. A lot of the time, 80s and 90s was known for the Herculean physique and, the colors and everything and the wild costumes. You don't see it as much in pro wrestling anymore. You see some guys that look really sloppy out there. They're out of shape or they have no muscle tone. And, you're in great shape. You work out daily,
6 days a week.
Yeah. And so you're still keeping that same mindset, but there's guys on TV, even like, especially in, I'm not as big an AW fan for the reason that a lot of their guys look like normal guys that you would find at a bar, they look like they're out of shape or they just have no muscle on them. They're little guys. I mean, if you're a little guy and you have size on you or you're just that great of a wrestler, great. But a lot of these guys look like, again, you can just find them at a local bar,
Yeah, it's a shame. I do like the program because they wrestle more. It's predominantly a tag team network. And then there is some people, and I'm not the biggest guy in the world, but there are some people that are just too small. And repetitiveness is, if I was an agent in the back, I would just tweak a couple things, little things that maybe people aren't catching, and too much outside. You're spoiling the people. That means you got to do it every match. First of all of it should be done inside. The only people that's seeing that is the ringside. The cheap seats don't see that. And there is a time and place for it, but not if you got a 10-minute match. You shouldn't be outside for 5.
Yeah, that's true.
Geez. I don't know. It's I have new school in me. I have old school. I have people that are younger than me that agree with me, older than me agree with me. Some disagree. I don't know. I don't know if there's. I mean, there is a right and wrong, but I don't know. I just more and more I watch and different things. And granted, I did some stupid things in the ring. I mean, as far as I didn't do it textbook or something like that, but for the most part of me, I did. So, and I always critique myself. And I took, I'm taking corrective criticism from some of the agents like Tony Gurria or Jacques Goulet, George the Animal Steele, Grizzly Smith, people like that. And, they're right. And, I would assess myself. I would always do that after my match. If I was driving like in a rent-a-car by myself, or when I got to the hotel and went to bed, I would always critique my match, I would go over the whole match in my head and then go, well, you left this out or you did too much of that. And it's not obsession, it's accountability. It's honing and mastering your craft as an artist, because you go out there looking like Walmart clothing and, you got a 10-cent body and you do that and you're just punching and kicking and telling the people to shut up. Well, anybody in a back alley bar brawl could do that on South Side of New York or Chicago or wherever you want to do it. But when you look like an athlete, not jacked up, gassed, when you look like an athlete and you're dressed like a pro, and you're doing some lucha libre, you're doing some American, you're doing some amateur, you're doing some pro, you're doing unbelievable belly-to-belly suplexes, Northern Light suplexes, Samoan drops, back drops, arm drags, hip tosses. These people everywhere, cheap seats and ringside, are going to go, well, that guy, he's a pro wrestler. He's been taught. He's an artist. They commend it. They respect it. To punch and kick, shut up. and then the hardcore stuff, which I'm not a fan of. I mean, it could be done properly, but when you start the bombs and the fire and everything wrestling, I know it's a different sort of pro wrestling, and guaranteed you're going to get hurt and all that stuff. I didn't sign up for that. Not that no, I don't want to get hurt, but I don't want to get burned, and I don't want to be around barbed wire or thumbtacks.
Yeah, no, that part, I'm me personally, I'm not a fan of that. Like they have, things like GCW and all that, where they're cutting their foreheads with like pizza cutters and stuff. I'm like, that's not for me. I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, people don't. Yeah, it's too much. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. Hardcore done properly. I've been in a hardcore match or two. You got a garbage can, you got a garbage lid, you got a cowbell, you got a rope. Okay, but the rest and half of that stuff you're doing, falling off a cage that's 30 foot and so forth like that, and a table. You're praying that you know what? I hope I don't get hurt, because there's no way of protecting yourself like a suplex or a backdrop or a hip toss. You're basically a professional stuntman.
Yeah. And
rolling the dice. Good luck with that.
Well, when they start using light tubes, that's even more worrisome. I remember going to the Lucha Underground shows, and they're using light tubes. I'm like, dude, we're all inhaling this.
Yes.
In the stands. I'm like, this is not safe. I can't imagine in the ring, like,
they don't. They don't have a clue, and if you knock it, they'll defend it in an ignorant way. And but again, ask them to do a bottom wrist lock, a Kimura, a top wrist lock, a leg drag, a drop under, a salto, German suplex. I mean, I can go on and on with holds, okay?
Or that sweet 3/4 Nelson by Barry Horowitz.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. You don't see that too often.
No. Did you wrestle in high school or college or both?
I wrestled in junior high. I started in a youth center in St. Petersburg, Florida, where I just basically got my foot wet in the water doing that. And then I realized I just got to train and so forth. So I went through junior high, high school, and at FSU. And FSU, I was only there a year. I couldn't afford to graduate. And I wasn't doing really well on the wrestling team I was doing better in high school than in college. But the blessing was I had a chance to train for pro. So I could have went 4 more years and financed it, or take a roll of that dice. Who knows what would have happened if I took the 4 more years? Would I have changed my mind? Would it have been better, or would I have lost out?
No, the reason I bring that up is you said that sweet 3/4 Nelson. When I saw that when you beat Skip, I'm like, oh, that's sweet, man. I gotta ask him about that.
It's my favorite pinning combination. Nobody does it. Nobody knows how to do it. In amateur terms, they call it the ball and chain. And actually, the finish of that match was supposed to be an Oklahoma roll.
Okay.
And I had a choice. I said, I could speak up here. Mike Rotundo was the agent. And I asked him, I said, hey, Mike, I said, a lot of people do that, and this is my first win. I really, if you don't mind. Now, if they said don't do that, but he didn't care. He really didn't. He said, go for it, do it. And nobody did that. And my first win, it was incredible. So I'm glad I stuck to my guns with that. I didn't have to say nothing, but I felt that the water's out there. And I said, I think there's a chance I could, incorporate this. And it worked out well for me. So I'm glad to this day.
Yeah, I wrestled a little bit in high school and college and everything, and I saw them. Oh man, that's sweet. Yeah, especially when you get the leg hooked in there. But I wanted to talk a little bit about you mentioned earlier, like kind of touching on the psychology of everything and how you would get the fans just to hate you, without having to cuss at them or anything like that. I remember being a kid watching Saturdays and Sundays. I didn't like you, man. I was like, you did your job. I was like, why is this guy out there, giving himself a pat on the back? He hasn't done anything, so you get into that mindset as a kid. But, when you finally did go up against somebody like Skip, the whole crowd was behind you, and so I watched it again just to make sure. I'm like, because I remember watching it, and I was jumping up and down with my brother. I was like, "What? Barry Horowitz won!" And when I rewatched it on the network or Peacock, whatever it's called now, I was like, "Dang!" The whole crowd just like instantly popped at that, because it's an underdog story, and everybody was invested in it. And so, what do you, did you expect that reaction, or was it kind of a surprise to you too when the crowd reacted?
50-50.
Mm-hmm.
I really thought, 50. I was pretty sure of myself and in a confident way. So, and I know my work would back me up. And Skip, an ultimate the dancing partner. I mean, I rate Skip up there with Owen Hart and Brad Armstrong, Tommy Wildfire Rich, Tom Zink, Brian Pillman, all the Armstrongs. And I'm sure I'm leaving some people out. Reno Riggins, Brady Boone. There is so many technical sound people. And definitely they were all a part of that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that shows that you were able to do both. You're able to be the heel and the baby face there. Did you prefer one over the other? I know you didn't have much of a baby face run in the but
I prefer heel. I love being heel. I like the heat. It was fun. I like the way I did my gimmick and my psychology. Again, there's another thing. You have to have so much in this game of professional wrestling, as far as the look, the promos, the work, and a lot of people don't have psychology. You gotta have it. You gotta have it. It will make you go from a good worker to a great worker.
Mm-hmm. Now, when a lot of the guys that were considered enhancement talent, they went on to do other things like, everybody knows, Dwayne Gill went on to be Gilbert, Scott Taylor, Scotty Too Hottie, PJ Walker became Aldo Montoya. Who's another one? Glenn Ruth became one of the headbangers, right? It seemed like they were building to something with you, because you started, Americanizing Hakushi. You weren't the curtain jerker match anymore. You were like in the middle of the card. I would say even like, closer to the almost to the top of the card for SummerSlam 95. So were they building to something with you, or I mean, was that one win over Skip really just that big of a deal, or what was going on there?
Well, I mean, they gave me a whole year. I was in the Royal Rumble, in your house matches. I was the captain of my team in Survivor Series. WrestleMania in Anaheim, I was on the celebrity softball team where we faced other reality stars, softball game, and different parties. I was of a lot of things, and I was the main event in a Survivor Series, I think 93 as the Red Knight. I took Terry Funk's place. I was doing promos. I did a commercial for Hasbro or Mattel Karate Fighters with Hakushi. I did a lot. They had trading cards. They had shirts, and now I'm merching my own. I signed a big deal with Zombie Sailor, and me and Dino Bravo and Rock and Roll Express will all have action figures next year comparable to the Hasbro of 90s.
Nice.
And it's a big deal. And now, of course, I got my mini-me's. They're about to, I don't have one in here. I'm sorry. I got to leave one. This is my room where I do my interviews and cameos and stuff. And he's about this big, and they're good because they're not jumbo. And it's got a bio of me a little bit on the back. And it's, I forgot you could look them up. You'll find them if you Google anything with my name, you'll see it. But they're new merch for me, and they're affordable, and they're really cool, and they're different, and I like them. So that's kind of cool. It's another avenue to go down besides my 8x10s, and I hate to say it, but I'm doing really well on Cameo.com.
Yeah, that's another avenue there. I know they pulled a lot of the, the WWE people off of there, but I mean, I got a cameo from The Godfather on there one time that, for a friend of mine. And that's a really cool, tool for you guys. It's like people want that nostalgia, they want that cool message that they can call theirs.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad to see it. So I'm assuming you're getting requests like pretty frequently on there.
Every day, somebody wants me to cut a promo on them or their friend. Mostly it's happy birthday, congratulations on the job, happy anniversary, a job promotion, an inspirational words of the day speech. And then you got one like I did one last night. This guy just wanted me to call him out and cut a hardcore promo on him, which is one of my favorites to do as a heel. And I guess my son takes care of all that, and he returned a message. He says, 5 stars. That couldn't have been better. Anybody wants a true pro, go to cameo.com for Barry Horowitz. And I got to admit, 90% of my cameos are 5 stars, and people tip me like a waiter. It's really humbling and crazy at the same time.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Do they ask for the pat on the back? Is that it?
Oh yeah, they definitely. I mean, they get that automatically, but some ask for, something. They'll ask for it even though I'm going to do it. I always, that's my trademark and that's my hashtag. And they ask for it. They'll ask for it or do it in a different way or double or something or verbally say it or physically. Yeah, they ask for pretty cool things.
Now, I want to kind of touch on this lastly, and kind of compound it with talk about the Hall of Fame. We'll get to that right now. But there's a lot of like wrestling nostalgia back in the air. Everybody wants to talk about the 80s and 90s. And, there's a lot of documentaries out there right now. Mm-hmm. A&E has their series of documentaries. They have Dark Side of the Ring and all that on Vice. WWE has Icons that they're pushing. What do you think of those, and why the hell haven't they reached out to you, man? Because you're like involved with everybody.
Well, there again, when people ask me this, my only legit answer is, I mean, I could bury it and go on and on, but ask Vince McMahon, ask the powers to be, because I would love to ask them and say, I got to know what you're, do you not like me? Do you this, that? I'll never understand it. And they come up with some ideas on their shows. They make about as much sense as an elevator in an outhouse. I mean, and it doesn't last. It's squashed. I mean, they did programs with people and they built them up and then they get rid of them. But my idea was, first of all, when they had that Monday night reunion of Raw, I lived 30 minutes from there last year. You couldn't call me up, have a little gimmick where pat myself on the back, do something, and I do the 24-hour champion. Then I pat myself on the back, somebody beats me. Let me tell you something. That with the music and Jim Ross saying Horowitz wins, they would pop. And I'll tell you what I would tell Vince. If they didn't pop, don't pay me. I'm going home. But no, see, there's something there, and they got my phone number. They know where I live. That was a missed opportunity. No, you'd rather have something stupid or silly. And when I mean stupid and silly, that's what I mean. That makes no sense at all. Mm-hmm. But, that's them. I mean, whatever. I mean, what are you going to do? And the Hall of Fame is all in Vince's head. Come on now. I mean, Kid Rock's there and I'm not there. Molly Holly's there. I'm not there. Who else? I mean, Jesus. At least I'm going into the New England Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. I was inducted last year, but it was postponed because of COVID. And it's a pretty good one. And at least they respect me and get in touch with me. And, something's there. I mean, it's not all I'm thinking I'm great or it's in my head. I mean, you could tell I don't believe in my own press, but when you hear it from numerous, again, telegraph, tell a wrestler, where there's smoke, there's fire. If it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a fucking duck.
Right. Yeah. And that's where I was heading. I definitely think, you have a spot in the Hall of Fame. It's, rightfully yours. I think, you've helped build enough stars to the point where, you know,
have an Enhancement Hall of Fame. It would pop. Why can't you do it 1 year for 10 minutes, 15 minutes? You don't have to have the whole thing. I'm telling you, fans love it. I know the respect. I've been with these fans at these shows. I mean, if it wasn't, why are they coming up to me? Why are they paying for pictures, cameos, whatnot? If you're a piece of crap, they won't.
Right.
I'll never. I don't get it, but I don't even care about that. I care about being a coach. That's what I care about. But I guess Terry Taylor and Norman Smiley and these other guys, they're better coaches than me. I guess I'm not that good. You know, some of these guys are brought back, had fights on planes, problems, major drunkenness. And they're at SmackDown. They're in charge. They're this, they're that. It's not jealousy. If I was jealous, I wasn't where I was at, like they didn't do nothing with me and I wasn't in shape, then you could say, Barry, you're just friggin' bitching. Okay, so as I was saying, the documentary, the WWE flew into Tampa December. We did it. It was supposed to broadcast in June or July, either an hour or 2 hours. It's been pushed back because of all the hiring and firing and Peacock. So I have somebody from LA, a producer. He's a creator. He's everything. And he wants to do a documentary on me in October. Listen to this. He says this project, when he does something, it wouldn't be ready for 2 years. And it would premiere at SoFi Stadium in LA when WrestleMania is there, my documentary. Nice. So that's pretty cool. I got to show you this. Check that out. Got it.
Oh, that's nice, man. Was that your mini-me little toy you're talking about?
Pint-size All-Stars, and they're by Wrestling Loot. And, of course, that's the back. Little things there, my little bio. It's a short bio, but these guys are really cool. But I'm glad I got to show it to you. And as far as that goes, that's my merch, and of course Cameo.com, YouTube, Facebook, Pro Wrestling Tees. I have 5 shirts on there. I think there's a new one there of me in a black shirt with the Star of David, and also. There's let's see, I think I've hit everything. Of course, I do my meet and greets. I wrote and their meet and greets and their signing, but I also do seminars. I was in Seattle last week. I'll do a wrestling seminar, which is verbally and physically. I'm teaching about pro wrestling. And it's a lot because I do it for 3 hours and I'm squeezing in my whole career in 3 hours, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So normally I have to come back. Because I'd have to be there every day or 2 or 3 times a week to show these guys what I learned in 18 months.
Yeah.
So,
quite a task.
Yeah. So anyway, that's about it. And yeah, you're right. We'll see about the Hall of Fame. Never say never in the wrestling business.
For sure.
And, you know, my favorite saying, if you want a friend in the wrestling business, buy a dog.
Yeah. But thank you, Barry. I really appreciate it. You know,
oh yeah,
getting that glimpse behind the curtain. You know, it's what I wanted to get. You know, get people to understand. You know, it's a different type of business. You know, and there's a lot more that goes on than, you know, muscle bound guys. You know, putting on a predetermined fight. You know, it's psychology. It's hard work. You know, you gotta have the body. It's a lot for sure.
It's a lot. It's a lot to think about. Bob Backlund once told me, you don't want to overdo yourself. You don't want to underdo yourself. You want to keep yourself in the middle. And it's almost like balancing on a tightrope. To keep yourself in the middle requires unbelievable diligence, intelligence, integrity, accountability. To keep yourself in the middle without falling, you got to work twice as hard as the other guy. Physically and mentally. Most guys can't do that. They can't do it. Or they fall off. Or they fall off because of demons. Or they don't want to work hard. They're lazy. It takes a lot. It really does.
Now, you know, really quickly before we go, I just want to ask some really quick, quick spitfire back and forth questions.
Sure. I love those.
Uh, Favorite opponents that you've ever had?
Oh, definitely Skip, Sam Houston, Reno Riggins, Marcus Bagwell, Del Wilkes, Tommy Wildfire Rich, Steve Kern, Brian Blair, Mike Graham. Wow. I know I've got others. I loved wrestling with Jimmy Snuka, all the Samoans. Friggin' love the Samoans.
Uh-huh.
And they're all talented and great athletes. Yeah, I mean, I've got so many. I name most of my main ones. I'm sure I left some people out, not intentional, but I've got more favorites than if you ask me who do you don't like. There's only a few on the list, and they're a bunch of jack-offs, so we don't want to even put them over.
Right, exactly. Yeah, we won't even bother. Hottest female in wrestling?
Charlotte Flair, the queen.
Oh, all right. WWF or WCW?
Oh, WWF.
All right, all right. And then I think I heard this one before, but I think I know the answer. Dream match if you had one more big time match in you.
I love answering this one. I don't even have to think about it. The best, the greatest, the pro, Kurt Angle.
Yeah, that would be a good one there.
I'd love to go about 30 minutes with him, 40 minutes, and it would be a barn burner. I promise you. That would be awesome. But we don't want to do that because that may make sense, Fabian.
Right. And then just lastly, best memories of the business overall. Just a couple of them, or maybe three of them, or something like that.
I would say, defeating Mike Graham for the Florida heavyweight title in my hometown and his hometown was just huge. Of course, signing with the WWF and all the accolades that went with that. Of course, Skip. God, I mean, that's my biggest, and the rest follows, your interviews and just other things that you could, put the feather in the cap that you thought you would never do. And yeah, I mean, that is the main ones. And being a part of WrestleMania, meeting Burt Reynolds and meeting other people like that. And you could tell some of these people don't know where they're at. They were just paid to be there. But then you got somebody like Burt Reynolds that, he went to FSU. I did. He's a stunt man. He knows what's going on. He really got it. And it was really glad to be there. And he was really cool. I won't forget that.
Nice. Well, again, thank you very much, Barry, for joining us. And, this is a special one for me, man. I'm telling you.
I appreciate it.
Talking to somebody I watched on TV was quite the pleasure,
I got to tell you real quick, I loved wrestling in California, all your big towns, but I loved when, we trained at the Golds in Venice, Santa Monica, and then the beach. That was just incredible because you'll meet different stars there, different people that I used to see in pro bodybuilders. And it was just a different world there at some of the buildings in LA. I mean, the people that would show up, in the background behind closed doors and different ex-pro wrestlers or actors and stuff like that. I remember a couple of them showed up from that movie Over the Top with Stallone.
Nice,
and they showed up at, I forgot it was the LA Coliseum. I forgot what the proper name was back then. And then I think Don Ross, I think he was a pro bodybuilder and wrestler, wrote for Muscle Magazine back in the day. And yeah, it was just, it's a different world there because, I went to school for sports nutrition when I went to FSU. And let me tell you something, when it comes to nutrition and the big bodybuilding things, California comes out first. Then it goes to everywhere else. Ohio, Florida, this, that. And they're always first and foremost, the clothing, the gyms, everything's huge out there. It's cool. That in Vegas.
Yeah, a lot of fun in both.
Yeah. So is that a hat from Crunch Fitness?
It is. Yeah, I used to go there. It was I like the logo.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I need to get myself back in there though. This pandemic's really kind of kicked my ass a lot. But
so
yeah.
Where are you from originally?
The Los Angeles area. So I mean, I grew up in a city called El Monte, but it's like 15 minutes from LA.
So you could tell a guy from LA, but you can't tell him much.
Right. Right. Exactly. All right, Mr. Technical. Thank you again. And for everybody listening, for sure. For everybody listening at home, I appreciate it. Thank you. Fuck you and good night.
I appreciate it. Appreciate my fans. Thank you.
Subscribe to the Ignorance is Strength podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Like, follow, and share on Facebook and Instagram at Ignorance is Strength Podcast and on Twitter at The Ignorance Pod.